Khubor ka Batisi TV. Lawan Rashapi da ka Frank Motors. The dark is here to rule.
Ka Department of Khasi Nehu, haringkat ka Khasi Author Society, kala pelong yok program ka bakerpang, haka arfly tarik ulebear arjar arfly, haka school ba Nehu. Nakabenta banyo ek Jingkren ki ba kampanya Shaphang ka Mynnor, lingba o Professor Andrew J. Ubade Khun Ksiew chap Ksiew tun, jong Thomas John, ubade ru ubriyo ubatip khamba Shaphang ka khana pateng lani ka history Shaphang ka Jingkren jong ipareng. Ka pang pareng hagani ka Jingkren kalong British Imperial Journalism. Ukongsan hagani ka sngi uli Menteri Ketenagan Arts and Culture uba polling do. President ke KAS Dr. DRL Nonglait ulai thu bala pelong khrang yagani ka program khrang bakan long ka jingmen toy mangintep khamba Shaphang ka Mynnor lingba uni nong thokot ba pau ha ka prathai
ni don yaki kaptu ba ni kirim kra ani ka chat religion few in the galaxy of names one would be Shaphang again Sorabon Shaphang Ukraine kini kikentian hakis ni barang nyukra ni im haki wait pakisi ayu ni le namar kari ni im haki wait pakisi ayu ni le namar kari. He wrote this in 1936 and only in 1964 those lines were repeated by John F. Kennedy. Ask not what the country can do for you, ask what can you do for your country. 1964. 1936, there was Khasi who said, we lived in other times. What will you do for your land? Just rephrasing. Kennedy, I know, I'm very sure he's never heard of Shaphang, but Kennedy rephrased Shaphang in 1964. I mean, what better compliment can you give Khasi literature than that? Kita mana tak maksud mun Welsh anthem, Welsh connect. Welsh connects to me, it's so deep that during the World Cup this year, Wales had played in the World Cup, and before every match, they would sing the national anthem. So they were singing the Welsh national anthem, and somebody WhatsApped me. But how is it possible that the Welsh team are singing our Khasi anthem? I couldn't reply to him immediately because it would run into so many words. Most Khasis think that Khasi is our anthem, and therefore the Welsh Holy Kapitas. But I think I've taken a lot of time. But before going up, Shaphang, but I've been so any event from Shigim. And the program will be cut now, printed. From Chief Guest Shri Borlindo. Larang Khun berumnya kiri Khasi harapnya bapak dari India stand the bawah stand the bawah pakai barang ngai leher dojong abdisha kalau perubahan siap yang berapa begini yang boleh no namanya Shri Borlindo namanya buat banyak Shri ya pak dari Papua di Yo visi trong kita kabian deh. Kabian teknologi ini, no, Shri, yang lain, yang ada kabian. Dia kan, dia kan cuma kecil kasih sedang nanti. Kompak lah debat masih, dah mangin nang jadi disuruh sedang nang juang simat ya. Nyokor di macam tak terasa, kita form of protest. Shaphang, Khun ke department, bagi department kita apa? Arts and culture, tourism, textiles, kini ni long, interlinked. Ni lapan snowball. Tang ngidang kenapa 1841 is only orang Sian minanda aspasnya ada ajar sokwe aspasnya objek ketika aspasnya jangka written script ketika itu ada nadu menurut nadu begini nah kita temen namun ini ada mentangin pakai ini coba lebih apa link ini kata language man kenal man beri ketika sih ketika man belong ini man willpower belong ini di research scholars ini nang yang penting kita mencoba di department dan banyak an persiang lain yang terpeng yang jerin yang terlong yang mah kacumi kerja dulu disiapkan dalam pagi yang lagi di kian keluar baru no pilih itu berbeda pilih ada kamu berhati lagi di kian pengiklan Kemudian kekendau kekur, kemudian kekendau kekur. Sedang dapat enam hektar, belikan hari halal kita. Bosni, kenal yang apa? Kemudian kekendau kekur, penklaimnya kita, kita angin dan ini, selama hidup ini dari tangki non Jepang. Yang mana kita sih orang Jepang. Karunia Pak, ya. Ingin kapan kan, bah, ngidan ru karong ya ai. Ni bang Shaphang deh, Shaphang kopi hip hop sudu. Kadun, yang lebih non, ruang hip hop. Kelabian mendalam nak ruang hip hop nak kita sih kelas biang. Kakak cerita tak. Di British pun mengayo apa di kenduk jadi nang lapan jaga dan pun ya baru itu bicara baru ini dari ayat ini kecil itu pun ni ia datang ini idea of America, the idea of breaking up from the stranglehold of the British came to less than 50%. And when they started, they were told that this is not possible, this is not achievable, this is not doable. Today, who can say that the idea of the United States of America is impossible? You know the truth. Then let us also dream big, think big, imagine, keep dreaming, keep scaling your heights. I enjoy, in feel, I halo jadi clear dong jokna.
Our expectations, I think, are high of each other because we have this mutual interest, and the subject is important to us. From my perspective, I'm trying to do a number of things in a small way as a contribution to local stories as well as the bigger stories. And I think that's the one thing I think as an outsider that I hope I can bring is connecting particular stories in a particular time and place to broader interest. You know what it's like when we tell our own stories. We acknowledge that other people have stories as well. There are other histories of localities and places. We often focus on our own part of that. But I think the historian's role is to look at multiple perspectives, to make sure that as many different optics and points of view are taken into account when they're telling the bigger history. And history, of course, is about the present as much as the past. History, as one of my great mentors, Professor Greg Denning, wrote, cannot be divorced from the circumstances of its telling. So I can't help but follow my interest in this history at this scale that I do because of my family's connection to the place. And the larger scale because the legacies of empire are much debated, not just in the academy, but more publicly and globally across former colonised countries as well as post-colonial countries like the UK. And these are uncomfortable conversations. They're uncomfortable stories of difficult ancestors like mine in complicated places. But I see it's not about being called upon to take personal responsibility for our ancestors, but it is our responsibility, I think, to account for them, to talk about these things and to account for them. So while, as I said, I don't have an expertise in Khasi language, I see myself at one level like the small boy who's been sent down the coal mine to bring out a piece of coal. You know, I go to these archives because I have the opportunity to, and I try and bring these resources to others so that can assist them to make of them what they can. On this visit, I've come from 2 weeks in the UK in the archives again, and on this visit I've given copies of letters that I found to descendants of family members who did not know of the existence of this material, and which throws light onto their very personal family stories and histories and memories. And I think that's a worthwhile thing to do. The people in this room, far more than me, have been doing critically important work on the evolution, the documentation, the recognition of language, and that's your area of expertise. But I do think, as I find material in the archives that may be of interest, that's the sort of thing I'm very happy to share. One thing that intrigues me, for example, is finding original letters in archives written in Khasi by Khasi people in the 19th century. And these are things that are difficult to find, to sort of excavate, if you like, to use that metaphor. But these are things that are far less understandable to me, but much more valuable to you. And these are the sorts of things that I'm trying to bring back and share with scholars here. In terms of language, again, I'm no linguist, and I know there are many scholars of language here who have written and explored in much detail the development of Khasi language. But again, I come across material in, for example, Grierson in the Linguistic Survey of India and his informants, often the missionaries, help us understand the way that they're, intervening in framing and fixing language. And of course, when we're directly quoting from these colonial sources, we recognise their bias and indeed their offensive nature, but it's important to look at them. So, I'm presuming you can read, maybe the top of that's cut off. In my humble opinion, so this is Henry Roberts, in my humble opinion, the object should be to fix and further enrich the standard dialect for educational training. We do universally recognise with interest the existence of Grove for the prosecution of philological studies. Their existence and preservation may prove of great advantage, but I need not say it requires untiring patience and some penetration to distinguish real words from murmured sounds which have no, I think the word is right, to exist except within the jaws which are responsible for crunching words as they do quick. I mean, what a, colonial perspective that is. But that, that shouts out at us, doesn't it, from the archive. But it tells us something about the way that they're intervening. And Grierson writes to Roberts, of course, government has no idea of attaching any literary value to the specimens of non-standard dialects of Khasi. All its desire is to record their forms for philological purposes before they die out, as they're destined to do. So again, this very colonial optic, and I see this in my work on Australian Indigenous communities as well. This notion that there's something kind of rescuing things for obscure, arcane scholarly purposes, and they're all going to die out in the end. But this is the sort of material, I think, that's as hurtful as it is. It's the sort of thing that we need to know, and it helps us to further understand.
Ni penolong ni kena program, dah kebangi. Hari ini saya keladai bangi Singapura yang kejengwan jomung Nehu, Profesor Andrew J. May, sini Shillong, usaha tangkomba Shitio Tamei, batap deng kejeng bon kam jomung, inilah kerpat. Daga Department of Khasi, but Khasi Auto Society, Bowen one eye ke Jingkren Haganika program Kabangi Kot Kerpang yo. Nila penong kenang yang program kenang bangin yo sibun ki Jingmentoy lagi Jingkren ki jong nomor yetip udah yo. Nong thought history ba crowd jongganika job ke bamenta latip yo haga pertai bro kawai. Lapan mi ikikot ki badan kam nak benta ke jingtip jongi ya ka Mynnor khamtam ka jingadai bat ka jing sosial jong ki phareng ya kene kari Khasi jongi ki jingtho jong u ki long ki bom sha siliang nak kata kadau ngi sodon kam ya ka ban khot ki jingkren jo ya u bon kren ha kene ka program benta ka singi but ka we ni kikot ki ba ura tho to lapan mi ka snem arajar Qatar, berkaitan Welsh missionaries and British imperialism, kadai ketu kot keba penlong yangi bagi sodan kaman khot yo nomor hangtung la yo bon ki jingtep ki ba mangi ngimla bantep bat ki ba kinong tho history hari India kimyo ki jingtep dai hakikot jong o ngila ban yo ki jingtep ka jing thombor jong ki English nang ta ka jing Sha Thombor jong ki Khasi, kumjuro ka jing le crowd jong ki English, amdai tangi Khasi hendrai, yaki Welsh missionaries ki batre ka ni ri jongi, namar ba ki Welsh bat ki Khasi, ki long na kita ki judge benri ki bahasa asal po ki English. Ti hagini ka jing kren jong umenta ka sengiru lawan ra sibon ki jing teb. Ki bedai bat ka Mynnor jong ka jai benreu Khasi khamtama ko program sosial ki English ti hakajing yakren nila yo ro ya ka ban kedau ya kajing ya dai jongi bat ki English bakadon ka ji fer bat ka jing dai jongi bat ki Welsh ti uni udai Welsh bat udan ka jai benreu ka bahadu mentaru hakajing sai ki pat yo ya kajing lain loy na ki English tendai let's say ngimla shu ban dang mudur bat ki ka England kan dang ai ka jing light road ya ka Wales ti kumta ka don ka jinga dai lane ka jinga sno mana ong ak tinang way ka connection ka bakhamjan na prengi Khasi bat ki Welsh ban ya ka jinga dai apden jongi Khasi bat ki English namar gi lahab ban ile persha yaki English nomor ke jing thambor jongki but department jong Professor Andrew Jeme Thomas Jones hagajing sia ulai rapi khasi agapor sinsia jong ki pareng nomor belai ba uni wan na kamta bani rapi kini ki breu ki ba sya leben hangni hari khasi kumba ki Welsh ki sya leben hakari jong ki hapo ini sejarah jong English ti kalong ru kaji sya ba katkum ke history ba Thomas Jones usha ben how when ki run ba sipai jong ki English ba keteng hi English but hadin ke jing Mynnor na jong na commission ban trei ki kam imlang salang hagani ke region ni ulai tengku teng bat ki officer sarkar jong ka sarkar kamat ka British Empire but nakata ka kim sultanat uni missionary ba Welsh namar bo yasha ikini ki khasi ti ngi ong ba kadon ka jinge pher ka ba kraw ha pdengki ka jinge de jongi bat ki Welsh bat kum juro ka jinge de jongi bat ki English ngi ladu sibon ki ai ki ena ki jing siar jong ki English rei kattu kat ne ka bangila ban pau ka jing songo ye ki Welsh ka long ba khamtam hak be ban ka jing penyo ikini ki dak tho umdai tang bo Thomas Jones marwai penyo i dak tho dai kadon ro ka jing ram jong ran ba khasi to por naka bantaban wa wanra e ki dak tho khasi